It's WrestleMania 41, Night 1, and the crowd is white hot from the start. It's time for Jay Uso to put up or shut up. It's now or never for him as he comes up against a man he's never beaten. But which Jay will show up? Will it be Jay who second-guesses himself, or will it be the right-hand man, main event Jay Uso? Well, it may not matter, because as we see, Gunther always shows up, and it's a clinical destruction. And of course, Jay does get some offense, but it's largely dominated by Gunther, who bloodies Jay up badly. It is systematic, it's ruthless, which forces Jay's brother Jimmy to come out, and he has a towel in his back pocket, seemingly ready to throw it in. And Gunther has Jay in a rear naked choke, and he's screaming at Jimmy to throw the towel in. And Jimmy is pacing around, trying to decide if he stops the match or not. He does pull the towel out of his back pocket, doesn't throw it in. He puts it on the mat to reveal that the towel says, main event Jay Uso. And that fires Jay up, who fights out of the hold, and the crowd is right there with him. Jay does it! He overcomes his biggest obstacle, himself, and he pulls it out of the fire. It's an emotional and a joyous start to the show, but the mood changes quickly when we hit the second match, because this is about as personal as it gets when Jade Cargill is in pursuit of the purest form of revenge on her attacker Naomi. And this is incredibly physical, and it blurs the lines of a show or a legit fight, even to the point where the referee threatens to stop it because they're bending the rules so much. But it ultimately comes down to pure power, and that is, of course, Jade Cargill, who manages to muscle Naomi up and smashes her face first off the mat with an avalanche Jaded, and she gets the revenge she needed. But will LA Knight be able to get the ultimate revenge on the Bloodline, who has made his life hell for years? His opponent, though, is arguably one of the most dangerous members they've ever unveiled, and he hits Knight hard right from the get-go. The Samoan werewolf Jacob Fatu is at his absolute destructive best, just like he had to be to earn the shot. But you have to believe that Knight didn't come this far just to come this far, and he wants that big WrestleMania championship moment that he deserves. And with the backing of the crowd in Las Vegas, he gets on top. However, as usual, that will always bring out the Bloodline. It's the same old story, but this time it's Jacob who is yelling at Solo to stand down. He doesn't want the help. He knows he can do it himself. But Solo starts arguing back, and it opens the door for Knight to nail a BFT. But Jacob springs right up, and he screams in Knight's face. However, Knight is having none of it, and he leaps into the air and nails a jumping BFT that seals the deal. And LA Knight retains. But as quick as he wins, he dips out of the ring because Solo and Tama Tonga attempt to get at him. But then we see an irate Jacob Fatu snap, and he drops Solo, and he hammers away on him, and the crowd can't believe what they're seeing. Tama Tonga doesn't even know what to do. Jacob leaves Solo laying and walks away. There seems to be another civil war brewing imminently. But speaking of wars, another one is on the way as Tiffany Stratton defends her championship against Charlotte Flair in the next match. And just like Cargill and Naomi, there is a lot of bad blood here as well. But instead of bending the rules, they try and top each other with pure wrestling ability. They're both cut from the same cloth, and it definitely shows. But in going for it all, you have to take some risks, and Stratton leaps off trying to take her out with a moonsault, but lands hard on her knee after Charlotte avoids. She collapses on the outside, clutching at the knee, and concern grows around the arena that she could be seriously hurt. And the referee is holding Charlotte back while the doctor's trying to tend to Tiffany on the outside. But Charlotte is having none of it. She throws the referee to the side and goes to the apron. And then she leaps off with a moonsault and wipes out all the doctors. She picks Stratton up and she throws her in the ring and then ruthlessly locks her in the figure eight and to an enormous amount of boos forces Tiffany Stratton to tap. And she wins her 15th World Championship. And to say that the crowd and the entire WWE Universe hates this decision is an understatement. Charlotte reigns supreme again and rubs it in everyone's faces. But speaking of faces, a man who has allegedly been covering his, according to Adam Pearce, is seen running to go and get Adam Pearce's attention and says he's found Rey Mysterio and LWO down. But Pearce is very skeptical. He questions just how Gable found Rey. And Gable just says that he was on his way to grab some medication for how sick he's feeling. But Pearce isn't buying it and he storms off in the knowledge that El Grande Americano will be in action on night 2, but will Rey Mysterio even be able to compete? Well, we'll have to wait and see, but it is time for Randy Orton to compete, who has a tense moment with General Manager Adam Pearce, and there's a real good reason why. Orton couldn't silence the voices after hearing Owens was out of WrestleMania, but the voice he's hearing right now is Nick Aldis talking trash and looking outrageously in shape. He wants to fight. There was a few too many times Orton put his hands on him, and now he wants to do exactly the same, and it somewhat catches Orton off guard just how ready Nick Aldis was. And it's a really great and intense match. But one concern Triple H had when making this match official was the danger that Orton might pose to Aldis if those voices in his head ramp up, and they do. And due to Orton not being able to quite hit Aldis with an RKO yet, he goes to the corner and listens to the voices loud and clear. And he looks for a punt, but Aldis saw it coming and he rolls him through. 1, 2, no! He can't quite keep the shoulders down, but as they pop up, Orton sees a small opening and boom! He swiftly hits the RKO he was looking for, and he pins Aldis for the win. But is he done there? Orton spares him, and he respects the effort, and he silences the voices for now. But what won't be silent is the crowd for the main event, which is coming up after the next match, and we see Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and CM Punk warming up in their locker rooms. However, one noticeable thing is Roman warms up alone. Paul is in CM Punk's locker room, which builds the tension for the triple threat match. But it isn't the only triple threat we have left, because the second last to go on is for the Tag Team Championships as the Street Profits defend against Motor City Machine Guns and DIY. This is wild. It's a total train wreck of a tornado tag match. It's incredible wrestling and absolute insane over-the-top action. All three teams are incredibly talented, but not only that, they know each other incredibly well. And the tag team creativity and the combinations are absolutely out of control. And there's barely anything separating them, which is shown in how it ends when Dawkins plants Gargano with Montez waiting for the frog splash. But not only that, we see Sabin and Shelley lining up Skull and Bones, and both teams hit it at the same time. And the referee makes the count. 1, 2, 3. But for who?
Here are your winners, and still WWE Tag Team.
The Machine Guns are devastated on the outside. They were so close. But it's the Profits who get the job done on the big stage. And it in fact sets the stage for the Night 1 main event. The layers of history between these three is deep, and everyone is incredibly invested on who's going to walk out the winner. But it really feels like Heyman is the only one that can be the true difference between all three first ballot Hall of Fame legends, and it's the ultimate test of loyalty deep into the match, when Rollins is stalking Roman Reigns in a very familiar spot to where all of this began, and Paul is just watching it happen. Is he going to let him hit Roman? No. He grabs the chair from Seth, and Seth spins and takes it right back. And now he might not spare Paul this time. But then Roman actually makes the save for Heyman and spares Seth and sends him out of the ring. But it also gives us a moment between Roman and Paul where Roman is thanking him for the help. Paul is a mess. He's emotional. He's borderline hysterical. And he is just constantly apologizing and saying sorry to Roman. But Roman doesn't understand why. Then we find out. Paul stays true to his word, and he remains in CM Punk's corner. And Punk smashes Roman's jaw with a GTS. And now he looks at Paul, and it's he that is thanking him. The architect, the visionary, the opportunist takes one more chance to rub salt in the wounds of Roman Reigns, but also takes his chance to pin CM Punk, and he wins the main event. But even more than that, he burns down the entire world of Paul Heyman, who will now have to answer to both CM Punk and Roman Reigns as Night 1 goes off the air with a stacked Night 2 still to come.
This is my brutality!
Night 1 ended with a triple threat, and Night 2 starts with one. Ripley, Belair, and Sky tear the roof off the Allegiant Stadium. And this is quickly rocketing to the top of the list of matches that could steal the show. It has massive spots, and it showcases the best of each woman perfectly. But it's Bianca Belair who showcases unbelievable strength when she launches Io out of the ring with a giant KOD that lands on top of Rhea Ripley. And then she throws Ripley into the ring, and she manages to land one on her too. And as she does, she makes the cover. 1, 2, no! Io Sky got up and landed a moonsault for the save. She's got both women right where she wants them. She goes to the top again. She lines up Bianca until she gets cracked with a chair from out of nowhere, thrown by no other than Naomi. Everyone is so confused, but then it becomes clear. Naomi is here to help Bianca, and she grabs Rhea and she throws her out of the ring, paving the way for Bianca Belair to land the KOD on Io Sky and win the championship. However, the question still remains, did Bianca even know about this? And we get that answer very quickly as they come together on the stage, and Bianca Belair proudly holds the title in the air to a stadium full of boos. And those boos are unfortunately to continue as we head into the next match. It's a first ballot Hall of Fame legend taking on a rookie who has no doubt impressed everyone. And the cockiness of Logan Paul just might get under the skin of AJ Styles, who self-admittedly hasn't hit his full stride since his return, which Logan takes advantage of. And he shows AJ that this will be absolutely no walk in the park. But what this does is it really wakes up AJ Styles. And I mean the real AJ Styles. And he comes fully to life. Logan is completely outclassed, and he rolls out of the ring completely flustered, until we then see Andrew Schultz in the front row, and he's really enjoying the suffering of Logan. And Logan decides to retaliate, and he pulls him over the barricade, and he's taunting Schultz. But Schultz doesn't react because he knows what's coming. And it's AJ Styles from above, and he nails him with a phenomenal forearm, throws him in the ring, and then gets him up and launches off for another, which opens the door to hit a Styles Clash for the win. And it gets him right back on track, and the crowd eats it up. They love seeing the phenomenal one back on top. But who will come out on top when the Women's Tag Team Championships are put on the line? Will Liv and Raquel get things off to the perfect start with excellent tag team offense? But it's answered straight back by the makeshift team of Bayley and Lyra Valkyria, who have a history of fighting against each other, but it's brought their in-ring chemistry up. But it's when the jilted member of the Green Regime, Chelsea Green, and US champion gets involved that things escalate. She's there on behalf of her cabinet, who lost the opportunity at this match to Bayley and Lyra Valkyria. But this takes Liv's eyes away from the action, distracting her on the outside, leaving Raquel to fend for herself. And we then see Bayley and Lyra combine, and it's got to be all over. 1, 2, no! Carlito pulls the referee out of the ring. And Lyra sees this and immediately goes after Carlito, and she leaps off the apron to take him out. But what that does is it leaves Bayley vulnerable. And while distracted, Liv tags in and nails her with Oblivion. And as always, the numbers win out, and Judgment Day retain the championships, which once again leaves Bayley frustrated and crestfallen. And as Lyra comes over to her, she drops her with a hard right hand, and she makes it known that they are far from done. But while Judgment Day triumphed in this match, it's a former member of Judgment Day who's in action next in a match that we technically saw last year, but it was very brief. And Drew McIntyre is out for blood right away because this is a street fight, and it takes no time at all for this one to hit ringside and for the carnage to begin. Drew really brings out the best, which is also the worst in Priest, because he gets violent as well, which is something, when weapons are involved, we have rarely seen. But this is such a heated rivalry that McIntyre wants to take it to a whole other level, and the match winds up moving all the way through backstage, where they actually fight past the still injured Rey Mysterio, who we are still wondering if he will be fit to compete later tonight. It certainly doesn't look promising. But it also doesn't look promising for Drew McIntyre, who finds himself on top of the scaffolding in the parking lot, going back and forth, and it's insanely dangerous, but neither man is willing to wilt until one is forced to. And it leads to McIntyre climbing down and getting the pin and a huge WrestleMania win, which shows that he's willing to go to any lengths to get the job done, just like one of the 4 men will have to do if they're going to win the Intercontinental Championship. Deep into the battle, and Finn Balor has Penta in position for a shotgun dropkick. And right after that though, he gets buried with a lightning spear from Breakker, who then gets up and sees Dom on the apron, and he sprints at him looking for a spear, but Dom moves and Breakker crashes and burns, and it allows Mysterio to climb to the top rope with a down Penta and a down Finn Balor below. He leaps off and lands the frog splash on Finn. 1, 2, no! He gets wrenched off him by Penta, and he rips his arm off with sacrifice, and then quickly gets him into position and drops him with the Penta driver, and gets his first championship and his first of many WrestleMania moments. It's a literal dream come true, and one of the best matches of the weekend. And we see that Lucha Libre is alive and well in WWE. And Rey Mysterio looks to continue that trend on the second last match of the night, but we see him in the hands of the Doctor and with Adam Pearce backstage, and they heartbreakingly have to rule him out. And Rey says with all of his LWO brothers being out as well, he doesn't know what to do. But Adam Pearce says, well, I've been around a long time and I know a lot of people, and I made a call last night and it was tough, but I think I got someone you might have heard of. A luchador straight out of Mexico. He survived the orphanage fire, and straight out of Mexico, it's El Generico. The place comes unglued, and clearly El Grande Americano can't believe his eyes. And as the match gets underway, it's clear that Americano is rattled, which leads to the arrival of Ivy Nile, who tries to hand Americano something. But before she even can, Zelina Vega flies out of nowhere with a Hurricane Rana, and it gives Generico the window to throw Americano in the ring and put him on the top rope and hit him with the Brain Buster. And it picks him up his first and perhaps only ever win in WWE because of what happens next. He invites Rey Mysterio into the ring, and he gives him the ring out of respect, and then he vanishes. But Rey takes the chance when he unmasks El Grande Americano in front of everybody, and to the shock of the entire world, it's Chad Gable. No one saw it coming. No one can believe it, which is what the entire world is saying at the conclusion of the main event between John Cena and Cody Rhodes. The match starts somewhat amicable. Cena wants to prove that he can outwork Cody. He wants to show him that he can wrestle. Does a good job initially, and he shows his power. But it's Cody who really shows Cena how it's done, and he outworks him, and it really pisses him off. Cody is clearly getting under the skin of the Hall of Fame legend, and it's a very distinct tactic, because Cody even goes as far as doing push-ups in front of him.
If you smell what
The Rock is here! Everyone considered that he might be, but they weren't sure if he actually would be. And he approaches the ring on a mission to put Rhodes down again. And he's got Travis Scott with him, and he's talking all kinds of trash. Austin is here! The Texas Rattlesnake shows up to try and save the industry that he loves so much. And Travis Scott shows some balls and steps to Austin, but gets put down with a stunner. And Austin barely breaks his stride to get in the Rock's face, and the place erupts.
Holy shit! Holy shit! Holy shit! Holy shit! Holy shit! Holy shit!
What a moment in history! Two of the biggest rivals ever in the sport, duking it out one more time. However, while all eyes are on the two legends, Cena has pulled something out of his pocket, and he put it on his hand, and it's the gold Rolex. And as Cody climbs through the ropes, Cena blasts him with a right hand, and it immediately busts him open. And Cena goes to work. And the mood changes completely, because something sweeps over Cena. Something evil, something sinister. But that isn't all. It's Cody's blood all over him as well. And in perhaps the most savage way since Cena was destroyed by Brock Lesnar, Cena brutalizes Rhodes. This isn't at all what anyone wanted or envisaged for the match. But Cena doesn't care. He's not interested in giving anyone what they want. But what he does give is Cody the most vicious loss of his entire career. and he rips the title out of his hands, and therefore out of the fans' hands, tosses it on the ground in front of a bloody Cody. And as the show goes off the air, Cena's mission to ruin wrestling officially begins. All it took was a little ruthless aggression.